Every year, Marvel adds new superheroes to their universe. Reason enough to take a closer look at where it all began for the company, where they're at now, and what the future has in store for us. Marvel Comics began back in 1939, although it was called Timely Publications back then. The first famous hero they created is Captain America. 5 years after the first comic, they made a serial about the guy. That's like a TV series that could only be seen in cinemas, as people didn't have TVs at home yet. Over the years, more and more heroes got their own comics, a lot of them penned by the hand of Stan Lee, who was with the company from the start. In 1986, Marvel released its first ever full-length motion picture, Howard the Duck, which was a total disaster. And the same can be said for the handful of other films they released the next decade. It wasn't until 1998's Blade and 2000's X-Men that they had some hits on their hands. They then started producing a new title every few months in the years that followed, all of them in the superhero genre. Stan Lee was one of the founders of the company and its president for decades. He knows all too well why people just can't get enough of the endless stream of heroes.
You know the thing about superheroes, people wonder why everybody loves them. If you think about it, I'm sure when you were a kid you loved fairy tales. Stories about monsters and dragons and witches and things like giants. But as you get a little older, you can't read fairy tales anymore. But you never outgrow your love for these kind of stories, things that are bigger than life. And all of a sudden, along come superhero stories, and they're really fairy tales for grown-ups. They have all the elements of a fairy tale, and I think we never outgrow our love for that sort of thing. I think superhero stories will be popular as long as there is fiction.
As for our hero history lesson, we've arrived in 2008, when Iron Man hit the big screen. This title was an absolute milestone as it launched the Marvel Cinematic Universe, or MCU for short. The MCU is divided into phases. The first one started in 2008 and ended with the release of The Avengers in 2012. Phase 2 went from Iron Man 3 in 2013 till Ant-Man just 2 years later. At the moment, we're in the third phase, which kicked off with Captain America: Civil War. It will last until 2019 when the fourth Avengers will be released. As for the future beyond that, everything is still vague. President Kevin Feige has said that the company might abandon the idea of phases altogether. But he probably has some idea of what he wants to do, as the company is known to plan things out as much as a decade in advance. In all honesty, though, we're not entirely sure if there's a future for superhero flicks on a scale like we're witnessing at the moment. A lot of people are slowly getting Marvel fatigue, and Steven Spielberg even predicted that the genre will implode like Westerns did decades ago. Something that might speed up this possibility is the fact that a lot of contracts for the actors will end soon. Can you imagine anyone other than Robert Downey Jr. playing Iron Man? To avoid this implosion, Marvel is doing its best to reinvent themselves with each movie they produce. Let's face it, the classic story of some bloke who eats radioactive waste, gains superpowers, defeats the bad guy, saves the world, and gets the girl is a thing of the past. Instead, we now have whole teams of heroes battling each other, like in Captain America: Civil War. There are R-rated comedies like Deadpool. Or how about aliens instead of heroes like in Guardians of the Galaxy? With the recent release of Logan, they've even successfully attempted to make a heavy drama just with a protagonist who happens to be a mutant. Also, the studio is investing in multicultural casts, most notably with the Black Panther standalone film which arrives next year. With the Marvel masterminds working things out, they're sure to stretch the expiration date of the superhero genre for years to come. There are also plans to expand the cinematic universe out to something known as the Cosmic Universe. Like what you see? Subscribe to our channel for more exclusive clips.